particular instance, they had lawyered up, and the lawyer did a great job of getting those guys and interviewing them in a deposition. Those guys being the SIU guys. It's like, okay, well,
Yeah.
how long have you done this? How long have you been in the SIU? And it was like 25 years or something like that. And he
Damn.
said, okay, well, how many times have you had some sort of investigation into claims? And the number was huge. Like, and how many times was it a real insurance fraud?
Right. Verifiable.
One
What?
one time
So
in his
basically
entire career.
So basically every claim that he touched, he's like insinuating insurance fraud.
Oh yeah,
That's gross.
it is gross. Yeah. There's other carriers, and I'm sure a lot of the guys and ladies out there know who they are. During the normal claims process, really early, carriers will get attorneys involved
Yeah.
pretty early, and then they'll send out their attorney letters with their attorney questions, and they demand all this documentation that should be part of their underwriting file in the first place, and kind of turning the tables on the insured who just simply put in for a storm claim.
Yeah.
They're like, well, hold on, this isn't what I signed up for. I don't need any letters from attorneys
I feel like
out of Austin named Michael Wilson.
I feel like a lot of these carriers, they just like they assume the worst immediately. And I feel like it's almost not assume the worst. It's like let me try to scare these guys with a battle immediately. And if they'll just say no or they back off, it's over.
Right.
Like they don't have to do anything anymore. There's this movie that just came out, Killer of the Flower Moon, and it's got Leonardo DiCaprio and a bunch of other awesome actors. And in it, like there's like this insurance fraud scheme, right? And the insurance man is back there, and he's just like, listen, we're not giving you the money, and he's just yelling and screaming at him like that's gonna change anything, right? And I feel like contractors get sucked into that as well. As like they feel like if they get on the phone another 30 times, that 30-second try,
It's going to be the one.
it's
It's
gonna
the
be the
one
one.
that's going to change everything for that claim.
How does it change with you guys? Like when you get responsibility of the file, right, and you have the claim, you got the ball. How does it work? Like, do they do the same shit with you?
So, insurance law is really contract law, but it's a little bit different because the parties have different levels of power, and in courts across the United States, not just Texas, recognize that you got an elephant on one side, which is the insurance company, and you've
Right.
got individual either home or commercial property owner on the other side, and there's a big difference in negotiating power.
Mm.
Uh, I mean, State Farm's probably the worst when it comes to that, to where most of the contractors and roofers out there are like, okay, I've got 5 callbacks to make. 4 of them are State Farm, and another one is,
Mm.
a no-name insurance company.
Right.
Which one is he gonna call back first?
Probably no name.
Probably the no-name, because
I used to call State Farm in like the middle of the night. Like
you
10
might
years,
get somebody different,
9
yeah.
or 8 years ago, it was like a completely different animal. And I'd type my supplements up during the day, and then like 1 o'clock in the morning, I'd call.
Send it off.
I'd call and send it, and you'd be surprised at how many supplements I got approved because it's somebody. You're right, somebody different that's there, and they just want to get it off the desk. They're just tired of it, but you can't do that anymore.
And they might have a little more stroke because it's, harder to get people to come in and do the night shift.
Yeah.
But if across the board within a particular insurance company, if that's just the way they do it, okay,
Right.
well, they might get used to that, and that's standing operating procedure for them, but that doesn't mean that it's right.
Yeah.
hey, we're not going to pay for this damage, and they just unilaterally set what the damage is. It's
There's
like,
like
okay, well, I had a storm and the useful life of my roof just diminished by 80%.
mm,
It's damaged.
yeah.
Well, we're not going to pay for that.
Mm,
Now, what makes your question was, what's the difference?
yeah.
I'll answer that with, I've had plenty of attorney clients over the years who try to take care of their own insurance claims and
Yeah.
got nowhere because they kept making those calls and thinking the 30-second call was going to be the one that broke the camel's back.
Right.
And they, okay, you got us. We cave in. We're gonna pay it in full now. And it doesn't. And those attorney clients, God bless you. I appreciate you coming to me. I'm glad I was able to help you. They're really good about waiting until the last minute as far as the statute of limitations and when we have to file a lawsuit
Does
to
that,
hand it all over and
does
say,
that screw you?
You're pretty good at this, Chad. You take it.
Does that screw you?
No, because they give us enough time. We just don't
Okay.
have a lot of time.
Well,
But the difference is we then get the notice letter out and file the lawsuit because a lot of times these carriers won't even take the next step until they're actually sued. Everything
okay.
else is either they don't respond or they respond with just some sort of delay tactic like, oh, we need to do this or we need to do that, or why don't we do an inspection and delay when they've already sent a final determination letter, months, years before.
So does
Less than 3 years.
let's say contractor has a file, right, or PA, and they're working it, right, but they just can't get it. Like they recognize like the 30-second call is just not going to do it. Does that ever screw you? Like what they do, like what the PA or what the contractor has already done, like the inspections or re-inspections or anything like that. Does that ever like have a hindrance on that file?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
If
So
if it has before, I can't really think of it. I mean, it would
there's
be
not like
very
something you can't file because they screwed it up.
it could go to a appraisal with the wrong representatives. That might screw it up. The only time that
Damn.
I've seen it was a little bit weird is
Shots fired.
if the insurance, if the policyholders hire their own engineer
Okay.
who's not familiar with the business, whether
Yep.
they're a professional engineer, but do civil work or some sort of other work, and their engineer is correct but not complete, where they're only looking at one specific thing,
Yeah.
not the full scope of the loss.
Yeah.
We've had to overcome that before, but as far as what the contractors and the PAs, they're there to help.
Yeah.
So very rarely does it hinder what I do. Now,
Okay.
what I've seen in the past is if they're trying really, really hard and they care a lot, they might let their emotions get to them, and there might be
That's a big
a
deal.
verbal altercation on the ridge of a roof, which for whatever reason, the ICs they write all this stuff down,
Yeah.
right? But that particular altercation won't be written down. So when all the facts of a case look just fine, like, hey, we should be moving forward without an issue.
Yeah.
What's missing?
Mm.
And you go back and find out either from the PA or contractor that there was an altercation on the roof and words were said, finger signs were given, and somebody peeled out in the driveway and then down the street. It's not documented, but somewhere it was written down that, hey, we're going to make this as hard as we can from then on.
Contractors, I hope you're listening this morning. Well, evening, whatever. Depends upon what side of the world you're on.
There was a contractor in Dallas. I don't know where they got this chalk, but it was the thickest chalk I've ever seen. So when they went up and they chalked up the roof, and it had plenty, it was a architectural shingle, and it had wind damage and hail damage. And just did a
Chalk line big as your
beautiful,
arm.
beautiful job chalking up the roof, and that really upset the insurance company because it made it much more difficult for them to photograph around the damage
Yeah.
as they do.
Right.
I'm like, man, I don't know where you got this chalk, but you need to tell everybody about it because it certainly makes it harder for them. So, when y'all are calendaring the re-inspections, try to get a fresh set of chalk out there right beforehand. If you've already chalked up the roof and there's another inspection, go back and freshen it up just to make it that much more difficult. Now, your question is, can they do anything that could mess it up? No, but the insurance company will say that they did.
Yeah.
I've heard it time and time again during trial, as where opposing counsel, the attorney for the insurance company, will go through this set of questions with their adjuster, either the first one or the second one, and basically go along as if this insurance adjuster was following the contractor around and the contractor was pointing to damage, and the IC's scope of the loss was what the contractor pointed out, which is complete and utter horse
Well,
stuff.
so here's the thing, though, is that, and I can attest to this, being I was a contractor for over 10 years. The ICs would set you up for that. Like, they would say, hey, you take photos, you circle it, you like, and so I always kind of like treaded very lightly, and I've utilized PAs, and I let the PA utilize law in the past. And so I myself kind of treaded lightly to feel like the situation out on whether or not like I need to do anything, right? But ultimately, I feel that, the PA or the law firm in the long run is probably the one that's going to end up unfucking the situation.
Right. But the contractor had already chalked everything.
Yeah.
That's the one with the big chalk.
Ah, I got you.
And he's the one who's sitting there. I mean, the IC.
So he's like,
"Oh,
I was
yeah,
just walking around.
It was their scope. Okay,
Get out of here.
great. So when it's my turn to ask questions, like, okay, you provided for X number of dollars for sheetrock repair and all this because water did go into the interior. Yes. All right. Up on the outside, let's take the roof. What'd you have? Is that okay? Well, you had, I think, 1 square, or maybe I think it was 10 shingles total. And the satellite dish, the wind ripped it right off the roof, and it was tarped. Well, no, it was 5. It was 5 shingles.
Oh,
And this is on the roof that was just chalked to
right.
It was you couldn't take a picture of the roof without chalk being in there somewhere.
Right.
Now, somehow they ended up having some clean pictures with no chalk. I don't know where those came from, but it's like, okay, well, you said the scope of loss, the damage came from the contractor. Well, yeah, that's right. Okay, well, what about all the hail damage you marked on the roof and all the wind damage shingles? Oh, I didn't think that was damage. Okay, well, that's what you thought, but you just testified that your scope was exactly what the contractor had pointed out.
So this
So that's not true.
So this kind
Is
of goes
it?
back to like the chicken and the egg.
Say it.
I feel
Don't
like
tell me, tell them.
the chicken and the
12
egg
over there.
is always apparent here because, I'm sure you've seen the video with State Farm and Raymond Little, which was the contractor on that file, but he was recording doing a brittleness test.
Right, trying to
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you tell me how to do it.
And he's like, I can't
I
tell
can't
you.
tell you that.
But like ultimately, whose responsibility is it there?
On what a proper repair is, it's the insurance companies.
Okay.
Now,
because they're
I'd say in the
coming
last
out
2 or 3 years, they're trying to get away from the term brittleness test or repairability test
Whatever.
altogether. As far as they're concerned, it doesn't
because they don't want to
exist.
admit it. They
Right.
don't want to admit that it's brittle and that it's failed.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's just a bunch of
And it's pretty obvious. underwriting. I mean, it's one of the major data fields on the first page is how old is the roof. Double check it, and you look at the pictures. You can tell within a
Right.
couple of years how old the roof is.
Right.
So it's like, hey, 15 plus, you're maybe even 12, depending on where it is in Texas or somewhere
Right.
else. It's got to be done. Like, okay, well, if you're calling for 5 individual shingles and we believe the whole thing's totaled,
Yeah.
at least identify which
5
5 that
shingles.
y'all are talking about.
Yeah.
Well, we'd have to go back out.
Right.
Sounds good. Let's
Exactly.
go back out.
Yeah.
When would you like to do that? And then do exactly what he did in the video. It's like, okay, well, look, if I'm a dumbass and I don't know how to do this right, you show
I
me.
feel like they're gonna hand you the chalk and say, "Here, show
Well,
me the shingles."
there it is. But you're telling me it's repairable. Show me
Help
how.
me. Show me it's repairable.
Well, that's not my job. Well, you're telling me. I mean,
Oh,
it's just like if an engineer went out there, it's like,
Yeah.
okay, they're going to come up with some sort of scope of repair, but you have to tell them how to do it. If the person who's performing the work says, "Hey, I can't do this without causing more damage. Please show me how to do it because
Right.
your scope says that I should be able to."
Yeah.
Sorry if I haven't been blessed by the roofing gods or something like this,
Yeah.
where this miracle could happen. Show me the miracle how this particular
Well,
roof can be fixed.
I want to address first off that when you're doing a repair, it's awfully hard to do it perfectly right out the package, okay? But then you add age to that and you start having problems where it delaminates, it cracks, the one above it, the one beside it. So 5 becomes 30, becomes 60 real quick if you're not very skilled, right? But if you and here's the thing. I've taken full crews out to meet with say State Farm, right? Or Allstate. And I've had the crew do the brittleness test right there because ultimately I'm not going to have them tell me that I did it. I'm going to have my professional. And then are they going to tell them what to do? I'd be hard pressed.
No, they're not.
Yeah, because they're doing it, but at the same time it's happened. I didn't have a recorder like Raymond Little. Big shout out to Raymond Little. That was an amazing video that went viral. It was definitely needed and sets precedences in the industry for sure.
Yeah, he did a good job. Kept it cool. Kept it straightforward.
Oh, could definitely.
And wouldn't let the guy off the hook.
Yeah.
And it was great that the homeowner was there watching the whole thing too.
Yeah, because like my next thing would have been like knocking the freaking ladder off the eave. Like, well, I mean, you see the damage now.
We're up here. Well, we might as well.
Oh my god.
And then on some of these, I've seen roof repairs like driving up to the house, you can see. Well,
Yeah.
they obviously have a patch.
Yeah. I mean, do most policies have anything written for that?
I've only come across one.
Yeah.
But and that's where I think State Farm, where the big ones are getting it wrong. If you're going to sit there and make believe that the repairability test or the brittleness test doesn't exist, then you can't have it in the policy that you get to determine whether it's a replacement or a repair.
Mm.
If you're going to take away the one tool away from everybody that says whether it's malleable enough to make a repair without messing up the rest of the roof, and I've only seen it written out of a policy one time, and it was in Colorado on an Allstate, where
Go figure.
you've got like in kind for replacement. However, it specifically worded out color matching.
Mm.
So if the roof has been up there for a while and faded, where you're not going to be able to get a exact match, you can't take that into consideration. But that's the only time I saw it, and I was pretty
So I was up in Connecticut, and the state is matching. So siding, roofing, it's got to match. And so I'd meet with adjusters, and they'd fly a drone, and they'd see a couple missing shingles, and they're like, "It's got to go." But then I'd also have adjusters that pull up, and they'd see like 20 missing shingles, and they're like,
Mm.
"Just isn't enough for me."
It's still performing its function.
And so then you got to like go through that, like, back and forth game, which I feel is just a game ultimately. But they had provisions for, and the policies there for matching, right? So even though they denied it originally, on the second go around, I'm like, okay, well, it's a matching state. See, I'm not going to argue policy because I'm a contractor.
Right.
So, but I will say, hey, the state says that it's a matching state. So it doesn't match if you're going to put in, 35 different shingles and then replace it. Is there something that, because I know in Texas we're not matching, but is there something that says in the policy that if it's not uniform, it's got to be replaced,
No.
or that they owe for it?
No, because that would put them on the hook for
A lot.
more than they think they would. In fact, they specifically discount any particular homeowners association rules that might require full replacement versus
Really?
repair. If it's going to
That's a
look
big
like
deal.
a patchwork pig, or at least different on each of the slopes and faces. It's like,
So
okay, well, it's got to be
ultimately,
in the policy.
ultimately the homeowner's on the hook then?
Yeah. But
That's kind of shitty.
I've seen that as a used as a weapon by the insurance company, or at least the insurance company's lawyers, where they'll lead the lamb down that road, saying, "Oh, okay, well," and this was a deposition to a roofer, so y'all need to pay attention to that. Where here we go. Well, the reason why you called for a full roof replacement is because the HOA had these rules that they
Right.
couldn't, you couldn't have a visible repair where it looks like crap. They want to keep their
Right.
property values up, and the roofer bid off on it and said, well, yeah. Versus no,
Mm.
because there was so much damage on it, we couldn't do a partial repair. The whole thing had to be replaced.
What about manufacturers? Like, let's say the manufacturer says that you can't mix bundles. So, like, this is a big deal for me because I sell shingles at RSI. Um, when I ship shingles, and as a contractor, when I roof homes with shingles, I had to get it all from one lot and batch number, because there's oils in shingles, and there's shades. There's like hue difference, right? So really, like, what happens when a manufacturer says do not mix, but the insurance carrier says you only owe for 5 shingles, and it says don't mix? So when I pull that off, let's just say it's like a Capstone. Capstone has that, GF Capstone. And so when you pull one of those shingles off, you put a new one on there, you're gonna tell.
It's like pull the second grade class from school down the street, bring them all down. It's like, okay, kids,
Can you tell the difference?
we're gonna have a recess today. Is we're gonna have a game. All right, now a major repair paid for by an insurance company was just performed on this house. Now, on the count of 3, who can determine what it was first? And within a couple of seconds,
There
was
it
it that
is.
shingle right there? Yes, that's right. Look, great job.
Yeah.
Now, is that the way it's supposed to be? No,
No.
it's not. I mean, it's supposed to go back to a pre-loss condition. And if
That's
you
what
can
I'm
see it from across the street,
it's not pre-loss.
that's not. That
Even if it
doesn't
was
work.
old, even if it was like 5 or 7 years old, it was all uniform and in its pre-loss condition. So, and like, So I kind of battle with and this is something I've been talking about with actually a couple of my buddies, is like, do they really owe for a full replacement when, there's the roof is like 10 years old or 15 years old, and let's say the satellite dish gets blown off and 10 shingles gets ripped off, and somehow they pay for the replacement. Is that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
because they paid for an RCV policy. So
Yeah.
look, if it can't be repaired, it's got to be replaced. It's got to look like it was in the pre-loss condition. The only time that I've conceded is on tile roofs, where there wasn't that much actual physical damage, and matching those tiles, we could find the right shape, we couldn't find the right color.
Yep.
Okay, well, you got to get the whole roof off
Yep.
anyway, stack it nice and neat, numbered, however,
Right.
and okay, you could put a square in amongst a
Right.
whole slope and make it look, at least
It's got a feather in.
homogeneous. The key word today is homogeneous. To where, I mean, okay, that'll look okay,
Yeah.
but if it's spotted, here's a patch, that's not okay, and you certainly can't do that with your shingled roofs.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the insurance carrier should be on the hook if the manufacturer says do not mix and they want you to mix it. I have a claim right now that I like, it's been going on since I was a contractor, like a year and a half prior to me leaving as a contractor. It's still ongoing. We're like right there.
There's a book.
Yeah. Open hands of boxing gloves.
Well, that's
a good one.
It was a successor book. No, the DDDs,
Yeah.
delay, defend, deny first. That's part of the delay.
I mean,
because it's true. People get frustrated. People get tired. They get worn down, and well, hell, the insurance companies have gone out and paid a lot of money to have third parties do studies.
Yeah.
And part of the studies is, hey, look, if you want to make more money, you can delay this because your policyholders, whether they're a homeowner or a business owner, well, especially for business owners, they don't have a lot of time. They got to get Humpty Dumpty put back together again, and so business can continue.
Yeah.
But human nature, you don't want to fight forever.
Yeah.
On something you can't see an end to, and they will be more willing to accept less after a long fight.
I feel like that's kind of the industry though, as a whole. Like we're conditioned to fight. Like we're conditioned that this is just going to be an uphill battle.
Which is ironic since the insurance companies like to, well, it's not adversarial. The claims
Bullshit.
The claims process is not supposed to be an adversarial process.
Dude,
everyone.
Dude, call it.
I believe I hear a lot of laughs out there.
You're a homeowner, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so like, do you feel like filing a claim, and do you feel, peachy when you file a claim?
Well, I think most folks would rather not.
It's like apprehension.
Well, I didn't ask for this. I didn't want the storm to come. I didn't want to have damage. I know
homeowners that are like, I would rather pay for it cash than file a claim, because they're like, we're conditioned to not file claims.
Some of them, yes. Now, in the juries that I've talked to, well, at least during the selection process, we'll go through it, and every single time, the property claims that were 10, 15 years plus,
yeah,
the stories are pretty good.
Yeah.
Or at least not memorable because it ended up not being a thing. All right. The storm came, there was damage.
Yeah.
Called it in to the agent back then.
Right.
People were out the next day. The tree goes away, the cars get fixed, the roof gets replaced, and everybody went on with their lives.
Right.
it wasn't even an event.
What happened to that?
And then the closer you get to today's date, especially within the last 10 years, it's horror story after
Yeah.
horror story after horror story, to where, I mean, people are pissed off. And to a degree that, I mean, it works for me and it works against me, because
Right.
it's like, well, look, somebody within this person's circle of friends and family was hosed by an insurance company, and they have really, really strong feelings
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
Adverse to the insurance company. It's like, okay, well, now they're biased, and they're not going to be able to serve on a jury. And I hope there aren't any insurance companies out there listening to this, because it to a degree, it goes to their
That would be
favor, because
almost fucking
if
everyone.
we go into the future by 50 years and everybody's pissed, well, and
You
they're
can't
all
even have a
biased,
jury.
I can't have a jury. Well, who does that
Damn. I never even thought about it that way.
affect?
That's deep.
So make sure your clients can do as instructed by the judge, despite whatever horror stories
Damn.
they might tell on a claims handling process.
Damn, that's
Yes,
deep.
I know this bad thing happened to my mom
Holy shit.
right before, and she didn't get paid before she passed away, Your Honor. However, I can totally leave that to the side
Damn.
and be unbiased, and I can do as instructed.
I don't think so. Damn.
No,
I never even thought about
those are
that.
the magic words.
Okay, so all right, this is a big thing. Here's a big question, because I know a lot of people wonder this, and or there are preconceived notions about insurance law and just law to begin with. How often do you go to trial?
Okay, so of the 6,000 plus cases that we've gone to disposition, I think 14 times
Whoa.
in 12 years.
Why so little?
They usually settle. And they usually settle because, we're right, and the insurance company doesn't
Would you rather settle than
want
go
that
to
to go.
trial?
Well, it's always better for the property owner, because we're not going to settle for less than what they're owed and what they deserve, what their claim deserves. So yeah, there's some cases that the bad faith facts were, I was drooling, like, I want to take this one to trial. But most our clients are very reasonable, and they just
Yeah.
want what they should have had to begin with, and they'll settle for that. And I can't
Fair claim
exactly
settlement.
I can't advise my clients to say, okay, well,
It's-
what they're offering
Right.
is for you to be all your property damage to be enough money to fix all that, plus the expenses of the case and my fees.
That's theirs.
That's what they're offering. So basically, you would have to tell them to turn that down and
Right.
and risk going to a jury.
Well, then
Yeah,
they
you
can
get
say,
more, but
Chad told me to settle.
it's up to them. But
Right. I like that though. That it's up to them, because ultimately they can't come back. The liability is so much less.
And the ones that we've had, the more bad faith facts there are, usually the quicker that they settle for the amount that the insured needs.
Wait, say that one more time, please.
With the more bad faith facts, the quicker they usually settle, because the insurance
more the
company
bad
wants
faith. So basically, as much bullshit that the insurance company is illegally doing is going to help the case.
Oh yeah,
which assumes
because
they're doing illegal shit.
They want to bury it as quickly as possible.
Oh,
now of the 14, 2 of them went to trial probably by mistake, because there was one defense firm that was in charge of those 2 at the very beginning. They did a terrible job. The insurance company fired them at some point. They're just unorganized, and another firm had to come in at the last minute, and it's like, okay, well, whether they win or lose, they're not really going to be graded on it.
Right.
Those shouldn't have gone to trial for them, because they were good for us.
So really 12 out of the 6,000 should have been included there. So that's like that percentage is what, like 4, 3,
Less,
maybe 2. Yeah, that's retarded.
a lot
I'm
less.
not great at math, but
Oh, and by the way, out there in the interweb, if you look at my history, yeah, I wasn't a lawyer right out of college. I had some real life experience first. I graduated from the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy with a marine engineering degree, as well as
oh, cool.
nautical science and marine transportation, which is the business side of it. Marine engineering is a lot. There's a lot of mechanical in it,
Yeah.
some civil, some naval architecture, but the formulas are all kind of the same, and the process is the same. I went offshore for a while. I did a lot of contracts for big oil companies,
Really?
and I got into this later in life. And
Why did you change from like the sea to like that's a big transition, dude?
well, believe it or not, women don't like
Uh,
their men to be gone for extended periods of time.
I know
So
this to be true.
I did not commit to one particular woman until I was in more of a permanent place, so to speak.
Oh, okay.
And it wasn't until then, until I finally went to law school, and I went to law school at night while I had at least one other main job and
Dude, I
another
hear that a
job.
lot. I hear that a lot. How
So
long did it take you to do the entire stint at law school?
4 years.
Damn. That's after already having engineering degrees and
As a double major, yeah,
that's nuts.
among other things. But the fun part was I already knew a lot about contracts just by working with them in the oil field, and so I just put the lawyer hat on after that, and it was some public adjusters that walked into the office one day. I happened to know them from sailing way back when.
Yeah.
Like, hey, Chad, you think you might be able to help us with this insurance claim? I'm like, well, policies or contracts. I don't see why not. And I started to review this garbage that the insurance company's engineers were pushing forward. I'm like, this has to be a joke.
Yeah.
This is a joke, right? That big giant Samoan guy is going to come busting through the door and like, aha, yeah. What were you going to do? I'm like, I was kind of here in disbelief. Like, where's the punchline?
Yeah.
And what I found pretty quick was no matter how ridiculous the insurance company's adjuster is, as far as ignoring obvious damage that's out there, or saying that it came from something else, like a bird landing too fast, stopping too fast on the roof and damaging it, whatever. Uh,
You got to
but
be kidding me.
there's the line, and they always stay behind the line. Like, really? Okay, whatever. As long as y'all don't change your story after we file suit, well, I'm fine with that.
So, okay. All right. So
Everybody's had bird damage, right?
I can't tell
And for
you.
y'all that get frustrated, just get into a habit of not making the 30th call. Just if they haven't done it after 3 or 5, pass it on to somebody else.
We have
Yeah.
some amazing
Keep going up.
sponsors, right? We have West Group Public Adjusting for a public adjuster, and then we have Chad T. Wilson Law Firm. You are covered. Just reach out 210-919-8987.
Because a lot of these guys that get frustrated, I get it. It's because you care.
Yeah,
And what you see on the other side is ridiculous. And you feel that you should be able to get past that because it is ridiculous.
Ultimately, they if you get mad, you've got a heart because you're dealing with a client. A lot of times these clients are, I mean, dude, I pulled Jamie from West Group onto a file where the homeowner just legitimately could not file the claim, did not understand it, wasn't getting the middle of it. Not to mention the fact that once the insurance company did come out when they wanted to, not at the scheduled time that we had, whenever they wanted to,
Sure.
denied it, gave them 8 shingles or whatever it was, right? And then comes back and gets it. The lady's stuck in a wheelchair. She can't do anything. And that's a lot. That happens a lot, more oftentimes than not. Homeowners, they are they're disabled, they're veterans, and people are getting taken advantage of left and right and sideways. I just don't understand when it was like a switch that went off. Like, why do they deny claims so heavily?
Well, I mean, what your audience should think about is like, look, if you pass it on to Wes or us, you're not giving up on the claim. You're actually
Right.
pushing it forward. But what it's doing is it's freeing up your time to go help other people
Yeah.
because you've already got it to the point where, all right, either it's paid or it needs to move on.
Yeah.
So you're not giving up. I know one, there was a storm loss here in Clear Lake years back, and it needed all trades.
Yeah.
There was interior damage, and it was a blind minority veteran.
Yeah.
He was the only one who lived in the house, and this particular insurance company did not pay O&P. They do not pay O&P. They never pay O&P.
Right.
I don't know how many times I heard the phrase, "We don't pay O&P."
We don't know for that.
Other than that, they had worked up a full scope.
We don't know for it.
We don't owe for O&P. So the PA asked if I'd help out. I'm like, you know what? Sure.
Right.
So I didn't charge, but I said, hold on, let me get this right. There's all these trades, and industry basically says you get more than 3 or 4, and a GC is warranted. So y'all's position is you want this blind guy, this blind retired veteran, to oversee all the repairs done.
Damn.
And then they sent us a check. And I sent the check back, and I made them put 4 O&P in the memo before I would accept it. And I just wrote, gave the whole thing to the client.
And you didn't charge?
No, not on that one.
How oftentimes do you work with your fee with like PAs and stuff on claims?
I work with my fee all the time. It just depends on where we're at on the file.
Yeah.
If they're great files, we really don't have to mess around with the fee. But sometimes we have issues with either additional damage that's really not covered.
Yeah.
Or when people don't understand when they get denied or scopes are brought up less than the deductible in previous claims,
right,
it'll come and bite you later. So then you get this spider web of a history between the policyholder and their insurance company. It's like, okay, they didn't the policyholder is trying to do what was right, and it ends up biting them. So sometimes we have cobwebs, and we help out.
I think it's a common misconception that you guys take too much money.
Well,
like, I'm just being honest.
I know.
Like, I hear that all the time.
They'll go out and say, well, a lawyer's just going to take 40% of what you need to get the work done. It's
right.
Like, well, if we take 40% and we get 10 times more than what they offered to begin with, then we always work the formula backwards.
Yeah.
How much do you need to get Humpty Dumpty put back together again? Then I've got to add the expenses and add my fee on top of that, make sure that we settle it above that number.
Right.
It's real simple.
Yeah.
Now, if
for some reason contractors don't understand that when you say, what does it cost for you to do this job? I don't think they quite understand it. If you're a contractor watching this, I think you really need to pay attention to this little bit here. Is that when you ask, hey, or PA or however that, I don't know particularly how that works, but hey, how much do you need to roof this? Roof, siding, gutters, how much is it going to cost to do it all? Right. And they're like, okay, well, it's going to cost $20,000 because $20,000 is like their bottom fucking hoard out bid. I think that
hoard out.
That because you guys know you do it. You know you do it. You give them because you feel like if you give them this price, this magical number, that it's going to settle right fucking now. And it just doesn't work like that. I feel like contractors need to understand that when they ask for a number, they're asking for the number. That means what it's going to cost, not what is the cheapest cost that you can do it for.
I'm going to try to settle it for as much as I can.
I would too.
That would settle the case. And, it's always best when there's extra money to go around. But sometimes that 60% or whatever the amount is, the client net,
Yeah.
I want it to be as much as possible, but enough for the property owner to put Humpty Dumpty back together
again.
make all the repairs.
Yeah.
However, sometimes
It doesn't work that way.
it doesn't work that way because especially on these nicer, higher end valued houses that are multiple stories
Yeah.
and the roof is smaller,
Right.
your exterior damage is going to be, a smaller proportion to the total value of the home.
Right.
And you're going to have a high deductible.
Yeah.
I can't do anything about the deductible. That was done way before it came to me.
Yeah.
And the roof ends up being smaller. It's like, okay, well, at the end of the day, if it's one of these properties where, hey, the homeowner's on the hook for 75% of this roof
Yeah.
before I even get it.
Yeah.
We work miracles here every day. But those are the types of miracles that just don't happen. If it cuts in that much, there's really nothing you can do about it.
I mean, and you have to make money. Like, it is what it is. You have to make money. Everyone has to make money. The PA has to make money. So ultimately,
well, yeah, and like, hey, I get it. You contractor have to have $20,000
right.
For that job.
Yeah.
However, if I stick it to the insurance company and the insurance company only really owes $6,000 or $7,000
Yeah.
on the claim,
what are you going to do? You can't get blood out of a turnip here.
And most of the time it isn't a problem because those policyholders understand their deductible and most of them have it stashed away.
Yeah.
But there's others that don't.
Yeah.
That they don't understand their policies at all. Like, hey, the deductible means you pay this first.
Yeah.
And then they want to argue. And, we talk about percentages, but it's all relative.
Right.
It's all
Each
relative.
claim is different. Every single claim is different. And you guys know that. So,
and I want to know if a claim gets to my firm and the IC or whoever the independent adjuster was that was out there talking crap with the policyholder about, well, it's only going to be this much. I'm just telling you. And you can get a lawyer if you want to, but they're only going to take, what you need to make the repairs.
Is it illegal
for
for them to say that?
Is it illegal? No.
Because it's almost like,
not per se, but it does
like
make you questions like, well,
that
if you're independent, why would you care? Two, if why are you saying this in the first inspection?
If you're not a stockholder, you shouldn't give a shit.
Right. It's like, oh, wow, this is how this claim is going to go. You're already forewarning the policyholder about representation.
I remember adjusters out there, and now that you say that, it's funny because I'm like, I didn't think about this though. It's like, you're independent. Why do you care?
There's nothing independent about an independent adjuster. I've said that a few times in trial, but in the form of a question directly to an independent. It's like, hold it. You say you're independent, but
independent from what?
How many times have you worked directly for a policyholder in the last 3 years, 5 years?
0.
Right. It rhymes with 0.
Oh man.
Because it's 0.
Wow.
How is that independent? Well, because I could work for any insurance company that I want. Okay. We can play that game. And you work for Renfro. Or one of these other, totally captive independent adjusting firms.
So we were talking.
Okay, let's play that game. Or the, well, Mr. Independent Adjuster, you actually make more money the larger the scope that you write up, don't you? So therefore, you're actually biased to the other. You're biased for the policyholder to make as much repairs as
Yeah.
possible. Like, yeah, that's right. Okay. And,
are they
and
gonna
how
do
many of
that?
your buddies did that, and what are they doing for work now?
Exactly.
Are they
Yeah,
selling shoes at Walmart this week, or did you just fall out of contact with them the third time that they wrote up a full scope?
They're roofing houses now.
Yeah.
Because they see they
Let me just prove up a non-negative for you guys.
Oh my God. So
Okay, I just want, I'm here to inspect this for the insurance company, but I want to let you know that I'm completely independent. They're paying my bill, but don't you worry.
that's like the
I don't have a dog in this fight, Mrs. Smith. I'm
That-
going to take care of you, or at least I'm going to tell you that, and then I'm going to leave, and then you're going to get a letter that says something totally different. in
that's
a
the
couple of
commercial
days.
consultants for you all day too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We could talk about those.
Sure. And I believe over the 12 years, pretty early on, I found out that I'm clairvoyant, because some of the packages that'll show up from the third party engineers that the defense firms
Yeah.
use will send us a package, and I know what it says before I open it.
Is it rhyme with we don't know for?
Oh, well, there's a causation issue.
Oh my God.
Oh, there's an issue with the data loss.
There's always an issue with the data
I'm
loss.
shocked. Okay, look, these circular anomalies that are on this roof where the granules are missing from this architectural shingle.
Circular anomalies?
Yes, the circular anomalies
Okay.
that are just scattered throughout.
That's a no.
The 3,700 circular anomalies.
This is just fuckery.
By the way,
at its finest.
I bring my Webster's dictionary with me to every single tryout. Just
That's a good idea.
Okay, sir. How many anomalies do you have before it's no longer an anomaly?
Yeah.
Plus, with engineers, this has to be what's
Because it's
probable.
consistent. Yeah.
Yeah, what makes sense? What does the evidence show?
This is freaking science we're talking
Right.
about.
It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's
okay,
for
well,
sure.
Gee, were all these marks on top of the roof? There's nothing else up there, and there was a hailstorm. What could it possibly have been that did this?
It was bird shit.
It wasn't hail. We know that because we said it wasn't hail.
But it was bird shit.
Right. Anomalies.
It was an anomaly.
Is it the seventh one that is no longer an anomaly? A baker's dozen? 13? What about 1,000? 1,200? We have 37 of these anomalies, sir. Or you just stare at him like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just seeing when you're going to crack, because your opinion is such bullshit.
So why has like the date of loss, I feel like that's changed here in the last couple of years. It's like, don't file for data loss, file for data discovery. Why is that?
We don't necessarily file for the date of discovery. However,
or this was the day that it was discovered.
Right. All the insurance companies work a little bit differently. I know Allstate, if you file a claim that's 3-4 months or plus after the storm, they're going to do a couple things. One, they're automatically going to deem it late filed,
right?
Late notification, even though technically per law and per the policy, it's not late, but it calls into question, well, why are you turning this in now and not like right after the storm? So that's when your discovery
There's
date.
snowbirds, they're military, whatever, right?
And I had one client's like, well, yeah, I was at home at the storm and it was really, really bad, but I didn't think the house was damaged.
Yeah.
And I think it was 5 months after the storm, he's walking into the kitchen during a pretty good rainstorm.
Yeah.
And he just happened to be walking when a drip fell from the ceiling and hit him on the forehead. He's like, "What's this?" Then he went into the attic,
Right.
saw where it was leaking on the roof, and the storm that was 4 or 5 months earlier was the only one that made sense
Right.
when the damage actually occurred. I think the other reason why Allstate does that, and y'all should pay attention to this, is because, this is a contractor-driven claim. Like, it's not really the
yeah, you hear that a
policyholder that
lot.
wants their house or their business
It's the
fixed.
contractor that
It's the
knocked on their door.
exactly.
How often
After
do
they
they?
finished, other roofs
You
in
hear
the
that a lot?
neighborhood. Yeah.
That's bullshit.
And the other is, it's like, okay, well, we know that there's damage up there and it's recent. But the policyholder can't necessarily put a date on it. So it's one of the things I talk to everybody at the firm about. It's like, always question the date of loss. Sometimes it's a catastrophic event. It makes it nice and easy.
Yeah.
But if it is notified a couple months down the line, that's fine. But where did the data loss come from? Because we've had transcripts of the calls made by the policyholders, whether the contractors with them or not, on the initial call in, they're not quite sure when the date of loss was. And hey, that's really up to the insurance company to figure out.
To
But
deem that, yeah.
during the conversation, like, well, the representative on the phone for the insurance company said, I have to have a date.
Yeah, they will some of them are
well,
like,
I don't know.
they're
what to-
hardcore.
I
They're
don't,
like,
I don't know
hey,
what to tell you.
hey,
And-
what's the date? I'm sorry, I don't know, but I have to have a date here. But I don't know.
And one of these transcripts, it was the representative's birthday on a particular date somewhere around then, and they went with that.
Huh.
So the defense firms,
What
they'll
if
come
that
in
was
and
outside
hire
of their coverage period? On the slim chance that it was, right? Like, what happens then?
Well,
If
then
that-
we go back and determine when it really was.
Yeah.
And how long have they been with the carrier? Because unfortunately these days, the insurance companies want to point the finger at everybody else. Not just take care of it themselves. So if you have a policyholder that's done a lot of leapfrogging,
Yeah.
it's defense 101 for the ICs to just blame the carrier before them. Oh, that was the policy period before. Normally we're not going to get something that's that dated.
Yeah.
But where it affects it is if you go in with the date of loss that's just made up, or if we don't make sure that we verify where the data loss came from. It's like, okay, well, if the insurance company just made it up, that's fine. We just need to know.
Yeah.
Because they'll hire an engineer and say, oh, it was the insured that came up with this data loss. And then they'll come up with some weather reports and said, look, butterflies were flying upwind on that day. There's no possible way you could have gotten wind damage on that day, or hail. Blue skies. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Everybody actually were excused to go work outside that day.
Right.
Classrooms moved outside. It was a beautiful day. It's like, okay, well, did y'all do any extra work to find out if there were any bad storms around that date?
Right.
Well, this is the date that your insured came up with. Okay, well, give us the transcript. No.
So,
well, what does it say?
I thought everything was discoverable.
It is. Now, whether they hand it over or not, without a big old fight or a court order, that's a different story. Or you can be like State Farm. Hey, we're just going to put big black boxes over everything and put a couple of tags on it saying that it's privileged, whatever, and at the end of it, we'll just say not relevant according to us. AKA, we just would rather you not see it because we can't.
Convenient,
and we'll just
for them.
Let's just make it a fight.
Okay, so we were talking the other day. We were sitting in here, and I was chatting about why denials. Like, okay, so insurance carriers come in after a loss. Let's say one of the most recent storms here in Texas was Austin, right? Well, actually, we had one here recently. Well, a couple of days ago. It was like 1 inch in Kingwood, right? Anyhow, I'm going to use the Austin storm because it was bigger. Okay, so Austin storm happens and insurance carriers get dispatched out to the area. They start doing inspections. Okay, adjuster appointments for you roofing sales reps out there. And through that, they start, approving left, right, and sideways. But then, like 3 months in, about what I don't know the figures that you guys came up with, but it's like, 4 and 6 or whatever, right? 4 and 10 or whatever.
We're gonna. As far as number of
The
hailheads.
approvals, right? So
Okay.
it's like the approvals change as the months go on from the initial date of loss, right? And then about a year into it, it's like they're not fucking paying at all.
Right.
All right.
We've closed the books on that one.
So
Okay,
why
well, what if I've got a legitimate claim and it's still timely?
do they do that?
Well, they're in the business of making money, and
Yeah.
which either stakeholders or shareholders, however you want to call it, they have to report profit, and they have to forecast profit. So they're going to designate a certain, they're going to guesstimate a certain spend
Yeah.
for that particular event. It's like, okay, well, there goes those dollars. We know it. It's budgeted.
What
It goes
happens if
away.
they spend over? They have to go to TDI or what?
No, they don't
To get
have
more
to.
money?
Well, that's the wonderful part about owning your own checkbook. You might pay on it, but it might be forced later,
Right.
versus the voluntary checks that go out. I mean, the system, it's broken. A lot of times in trial, I'll go back to where insurance came from in the first place, because it's near and dear to my heart, because it came from it came from the Merchant Marine. Really.
Okay.
Way back in the day, when they had tall ships, sailing ships. That's what was used to move goods, spices,
Yeah.
precious metals, anything that furs
Yeah.
that the different countries wanted to trade, because this country has a lot of this and this one has a lot of this. Anyway, it would go on tall ships, and they would load these things to the gild, which
Yeah.
is fine in fair weather. You
Right.
can fill it up, but when the weather turns, you need the extra buoyancy,
Right.
or the ship will go down. So what the crew would do is it would toss cargo over to save the ship. Well, what happens then?
They lose money.
The merchants whose goods were on top, well, they're like, I don't want to ship my goods on top,
Right.
because it's the first one that's going to get
Thrown out.
tossed. So what ended up happening is, like, okay, the merchants would get together and they would insure against each other. It's like, hey, look, whoever's goods are shipped on top, if they get tossed to save the ship, everybody else is
We'll
going to cover that
it.
loss.
Yeah.
But everybody had a stake.
Yeah.
It made sense. I mean, hell, just getting goods on and off the ships had an inherent risk. They had a risk against pirates coming and stealing the stuff. So they would protect against each other. Now, later, it became more formal, and it was in Lloyd's Coffee House back in 1437, something like, maybe it was in the late 1300s. And it was an informal, impromptu. People would get together at this one coffee shop, and those merchants who wanted to send cargo would meet with the first insurers who did it as a business.
Yeah.
And they were willing to underwrite those journeys.
Yeah.
And they'd make plenty of money on it.
Yeah.
Well, that was basically the birth of Lloyd's of London. Well, today it's not the same. You got these companies.
Most definitely not.
They're built for one reason and one reason only: to make money. And I look at it a little bit like the tail wagging the dog. Like,
Dude.
Are the shareholders and the stakeholders the ones that are really calling the shots? Because I know it's not on this claim.
For
This is a legitimate
USAA,
claim, and
they
y'all are denying it for absolute bullshit reasons.
Yeah. Yeah, I know for USAA, they are for sure.
USAA is different because it is member driven, but I think so many of their managers and upper level managers came from other insurance companies that they're basically as bad as the publicly traded ones.
Yeah.
In fact, I think they can be a little worse because in mediations they like to give their members a little bit of grief,
Yeah.
little bit of guilt. Oh, we didn't know that you had a problem with this claim. If you had done a better job telling us that you were unsatisfied with it, what they would have done something different.
No.
The notice
Never.
letters that got ignored. They like that, or at least they used to like that one-on-one.
Yeah.
Which for years they kept doing that. I'm like, okay, we're not going to do this all-inclusive meeting before we start trading numbers at mediation.
Yeah.
And I always wondered, when are they going to figure out that I'm a member?
Oh my God.
Well, maybe we'll know. Depends on how far this particular broadcast goes. We'll see what happens, but they've been pretty bad. I was kind of shocked. They're on their automobile side. They're not too bad, but on the property side, they're
Property is bad.
pretty bad.
It is. It's gotten worse. I know that. I'd say about 5 years ago, 6 years ago was a little easier, but like today, it's terrible getting anything covered, especially at the beginning. Like, I used to be able to, like, I've done a lot of work in Victoria and in Killeen, Fort Hood, and so actually that's where my daughter was born, and in Fort Hood. So I dealt with USAA quite a bit, and originally, 7, 8 years ago, they'd come out and they'd evaluate the loss, and if it was in question, they were paying for it. But why? Because they wanted to take care of their policyholder, and they were number one to them at that time, or else they felt like that. I felt like that. I'm a policyholder with USAA. So then throughout, just like it is now, each year there's just an added something that they take away, that they make difficult. And then all of a sudden, they just stop fucking paying out in person. It's like, you know what? We're just gonna make you go to appraisal or fucking take us to litigation.
And we've got it to where we go to litigation, and they will purposely wait until after we've designated experts, which for you guys, that means I've got to go hire people, get reports made. It's where I spend money, real money on the case. And then they'll try to mediate right after that. It's like, okay, well, we're not going to admit that we're liable for this particular loss, but if we were going to pay for it, it would be, this number that we're going to make up, the whore number that you had mentioned.
Yeah, it's not like
minus the deductible, minus recoverable depreciation, and they would offer that.
They pull this shit right out their ass, and they're just like, "Here, this is it." They don't even know what it is.
Okay, well, why do you think that number would effectively settle this case?
It has nothing to do with the roof
at this time. Y'all could have gotten away with that number on day one.
Yeah,
maybe, but certainly not now. And you're not stupid.
Yeah.
So answer that question. Why do you think this is okay? I don't know. I guess some will accept it, but I know I can't.
Man,
not if I'm putting the money that they need in their pocket. So we'll just keep going. That's fine.
I feel like
they've tried some underhanded stuff in the past too, where they've gotten letters of representation from us, and then they would run out to the policyholder's house and say, "Okay, hey, we're going to pay this."
No shit.
Oh yeah. But at that point, the members, policyholders were so pissed off that they'd just pick up the phone and tell us immediately. Like, oh, check this out.
Damn. I couldn't imagine that. I have a favor to ask you though.
What's that?
There's a remote behind you. Will you grab that? So I sure would like Chad T to be displayed here. Let's see if this will work. If not, I will throw the remote. Yeah, I'm just gonna throw the remote to our audio visual guy, Alejandro. Thank you, Alejandro. Yeah, that kind of went down while we were talking, and didn't want to like do a big interruption.
I didn't even see it.
Yeah, certain things. Yeah, I've been doing this for a little while, so certain things I catch out of this corner of my eye. I'm like, oh, it's gone. Now it's there. It's freaking beautiful. Thank you, Alejandro. So, we've been talking about the carrier a lot, and because I think some people, they just think that the carrier is like their best friend, right? We're like drilled that these agents are our best friends from high school. So don't file a claim. Most definitely don't take them to court. How do you suggest that contractors go about like changing that stigma?
It's a different it's a different world than it was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And basically say, look, I've as the contractor said, I've seen this. I know the damage to your place. It's legitimate storm damage. Uh, in my opinion, they're definitely not paying this
Yeah.
properly, and you need to get it. Either go to an attorney or something, because they should pay for this.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, these days, sometimes a lawsuit is the way that it gets paid.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that it's a numbers games for the insurance companies, where it's like, well, hey, that doesn't make sense. It's the insurance companies that always pay out, and everybody loves that are going to make the most money. Well, no, it's not. They've spent a lot of money on these people
Advertisements.
that do the algorithms and say, look, you're gonna make this much. If you don't pay out on claims, you might lose this percentage.
Yeah.
However, at the end of the day, even after litigation costs for the squeaky wheels that
Yeah.
you have to fight, you make more profit. In end of the day, that's what it is. So, look, it's a business to them, and it's a step.
Say 15%.
Unfortunately, you got to file a lawsuit to get it done. Now, the best way to sell it is like, even with the contractors that really care and they get pissed off that it's so obvious and the carrier is being completely unreasonable. My advice comes from the Penguins of Madagascar, which is smile and wave, boys. Just smile and wave. Like, look, you've made your stupid determination. We both know that this house has a legitimate loss. We're just going to move this on to the next level. Let Chad handle it or whatever.
Yeah.
Because this denial is bullshit, and just smile. It'll get taken care of. For the property owner, tell them, look, it's a step, but it's a step that the insurance company is pushing.
Yeah.
Because you're just a statistic to them.
That's horrible. Most people,
and the positive there is they don't have to deal with the carrier anymore. They become my problem.
That is a huge upside to doing this side of the claim. So many times I think that the contractor gets looped in, and here's how I, as a contractor, avoided making the decision on whether or not the claim is deemed to be, say, in your hands, right? And this is kind of a question that I guess some people ask too, is does every claim need to go to a lawyer, or does every claim need to go to a PA?
But is that a trick question?
See, there you go.
The ones that get paid Obviously not.
Right.
I guess the ones that are questionable is if they've accepted liability on the claim,
Here's a
but
better question.
just short paid it.
Here's a better question.
Then
Okay.
is it worth it?
If a client comes to you and says, please review my file. Absolutely. And you look at it and you're like, I think West Group could probably settle this. Have you ever done that?
We've had some that we felt a PA was better.
Okay.
But it depends on not necessarily the damage of the property, but the client,
Yeah.
the client's particular circumstances.
Right.
And usually that's, hey, I need to get paid sooner rather than
Later.
Than later. However, we'll look at any of them.
Yeah.
And give them
But you
an
have
honest opinion.
You have
Where I've had
said
plenty
that.
of them that came in. It's like, well, look, the contractor said I didn't get enough.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, I've reviewed your file and the insurance company didn't pay you Hollywood money.
Right.
However, I think they paid for it. I think they paid for the entire thing, not great money, but enough. So you need to talk to your contractor.
I think sometimes
why isn't there a roof on your house?
The contractors have this stigma in their head that if a PA takes the claim, that the PA is going to get $1,000 a square, or if a lawyer takes a claim, the lawyer is going to get $1,000 a square. And I've seen it happen like that with shingles. Not 1,000, but it was like $970 something for a 3-tab shingle in Kingwood. It was very nice, but and I upgraded the client on that one, but ultimately that doesn't happen all the time, and it's not going to happen every single time. But that's something that's in the back of the head that contractors think, like, as soon as I've got legal or as soon as I got PA involved, fuck it, I'm getting $1,000 a square.
I think it's on those, either you have an extreme stubborn insurance company, or it's not a clean cut loss.
Yeah.
Where somebody else has to come in. Maybe there's spider webs on the claim. Maybe there's
like that.
Some
Spider webs.
pre-existing damage. Something else, where the carrier has a legitimate counter defense, but not a total one. Where it's like, okay, well, look, we understand it's got some other issues, but there's definitely clear storm damage as well.
Yeah.
Now, hence we go into the gray area. Now, I know a lot of times on the street, on the roofs, y'all barter deals, where, all right, we think it's a full replacement. You think it's a repair. It's kind of close.
Yeah.
So they overpay for a repair.
Yeah.
Knowing that it's enough for a replacement.
Yeah.
So I got $950 a square on this 3-tab.
Damn.
However, I'm going to leave out the facts that say I got 2 squares. Or I got 3 squares at $950.
That's very astute.
On an 18 square roof.
Yeah.
I mean, everything.
It's relative.
It's all relative.
Yeah.
Apples to apples. That kind of stuff. And I've also had some crazy contractors out there. It's like, well, I get $1,400 a square all day long.
Shut the fuck up.
I'm like, well, not on this one.
No, not here.
You didn't get anything on this one.
You're not getting. I swear to God that if you're out there selling $1,450 a square to the people of Clear Lake, that you're probably not going to live here, and you're probably not going to have a sustainable business model either. Just saying, because you're not going to sell shingles at $1,450 a square all day.
Well, I wouldn't be as
You're
successful
a fucking liar
as I am as an attorney if I were doing that.
Yeah.
All the defense attorneys and insurance companies would
yeah. You'd be blacklisted.
They would be doing a lot more things to me.
It'd be like, Chad Pete, yeah, we're fucking we're not talking to these guys for like until we have to.
Versus, representing folks with legit claims.
Yeah.
And hey, what does a claim deserve.
Yeah.
And that's where, because it was one of the early defense attorneys like, well, some of these other attorneys, they don't get it. What's that? Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered.
Ooh.
And yeah, I'm sure y'all have got plenty of stories, amongst contractors, roofers, and PAs for sure,
Yeah.
where there was a hog that was shot, and it wasn't a feral, West Texas hog either. It was just some jackass asking way too much for a property loss.
Oh my
It was like,
God.
okay, time out.
Yeah.
You need to be rung back into reality for a second.
That's absolutely insane.
And others is like, okay, we're not going to pay for all this other superfluous stuff, overpay on the roof, and then the rest of it gets done.
Yeah.
It just depends. We of course detail it all out, because after September 1st, 2017, I was held to a higher standard for the actual damage amount that I claim before litigation starts.
Huh.
However, I don't think, and this is something that the insurance companies lobbied for and they got. However, that statutory notice isn't too different than it was before.
Yeah.
But the complaint was they were getting just stupid letters from attorneys.
Yeah.
Like, we demand that you pay $1 million, or we're going to sue you on this 18 square 3 tap. That's on the 23rd of it, year of its life.
Oh my God.
On an ACV policy. It's
Yeah.
like, no, that kind of notice and demand
That's
it
ballsy.
doesn't help them either.
No.
Like if they actually missed something, that kind of letter.
You got to start
facts
high,
just
but I don't see starting at $1 million. $1 million is fucking high.
So ours are broken down. And in the new age, we've got to be really close. And if we end up proving a number lower at trial, after judgment, there's a reason why it says judgment. Then I'm subject to have my attorney's fees reduced if I provided a dumb number at the very, very beginning.
Yeah. Fuckers.
So I don't totally disagree with that particular change, but that's because I'm on the up and up.
I like that. Actually, I really like that. Otherwise, we wouldn't be sitting here together
in front of this screen that's been turned back on.
Yeah. Right. So what's the biggest takeaway that you would say if somebody was sitting here watching or listening? What's the biggest takeaway that you would think for them to take away today?
Smile and wave, boys. Smile and wave.
Smile and wave. Ladies and gentlemen,
I appreciate everybody taking it personally, because it's really, really easy to do. Just don't let it get to you. Yeah, I totally get it. Chris Flynn, our marketing and sales guy, he talks to roofers and contractors and everybody often, and he brought me in to one of the local roofers, and I spoke. There's really at least 25 or 30 of them all in a room. But like before I got started, I'm like, God, who died?
Oh God!
I come in, I got the jacket on. I'm, woo, hey, what's going on? And they're like, they're all just really downtrodden. I'm like, what's going on? And it was exactly that. They were just frustrated that they kept banging their heads, trying to get insurance companies to see the light on a particular claim, and just getting denied. I'm like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Now I understand. Look, you're doing the right thing, and don't feel bad for feeling bad. That's good. That means you care. But you can't change somebody else's behavior.
Yeah.
However, I can. So smile and wave. Like, okay, fine. Whatever. If y'all want to, if that's your final determination, great. We're gonna tell these policyholders that there's other courses of action that they can take, and we highly recommend that they do. Because
We'll save that for another
Yes, they
episode. Oh man,
And
ladies.
know it's getting done. You know, there's nothing wrong with letting other people help out.
I think it's really important. And you know, do a little announcement section here. In the very near future, there are going to be trainings that are going to be held here at Chad T. Wilson Law Firm that we are publicly inviting you to, and we will be publicly inviting you to them at that time. We'll be doing all different kinds of stuff, and really excited about one coming up in like Colorado in January. So we're going to be in Colorado in January. Really excited for that one as well. Just understand that, you know, this law firm is not just here to help with a claim, they're here to help you grow. And that's really the biggest reason why, when I was approached and Ken and I talked about the sponsorship, why I was even interested, because I wanted people that were as passionate about helping the industry grow as I am. And I found that with you guys.
And what I've seen is we have a lot of room to do so. It's you know, one of the reasons why we took over the
Tons
whole
of room.
floor here, set up the training room,
5th floor.
because even as it gets worse and the problem grows, and my kids are 15, 12, and 9, and if we happen to watch a pretty big football game or something like that, and they keep seeing State Farm or Progressive or
Yeah.
Allstate come on a commercial, they'll try to antagonize me like, "What do you think of that, Dad?" I'm like, so glad they have hundreds of millions of dollars to piss away
Yeah.
on this commercial. But going into talking to juries and people afterwards, they're like, "We didn't even know we could sue our insurance company." Wow, this is like just a mind-altering, eye-opening experience where, you know, they
'Cause
hear
they
the
held the
story of our
bag, dude.
clients and they're like, "Can't believe this got this far." We're like, "Well, we can't either, and we certainly appreciate your service."
Yeah.
And it goes by word of mouth.
Yeah.
So, you know, if the energy is that drop in the water and you get the rings that go out, the
Yeah.
more that we can help out, absolutely.
I'm excited about it. So you guys stay tuned to that. And we've got a bunch of announcements coming up. We also have a bunch of changes coming up to the podcast. Really excited about that. Have another podcast set in the next week with Washington Ho, which is a local celebrity here in Houston. Really excited to have that come out. So you guys stay tuned. We are sponsored and are always sponsored by Roofing Supply Incorporated here in the Houston marketplace, where you can get your shingles directly from me. Telephone number is 210-919-8987. We are also sponsored by West Group Public Adjusters, where you can get an awesome hand-tailored claims experience. If you're looking to get a hold of West Group, also reach out to me. Telephone number 210-919-8987. And last but not least, we are sponsored by Chad T. Wilson, the law firm bringing you what you need the most, and that is awesome protection and coverage with the insurance carriers. You guys have a blessed day, and stay tuned for the next episode of Roofing on the Rise.